Good evening and welcome to Q News, special coverage of the Arab Summit in Baghdad. Egypt's President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi and Iraq's el-Sudani joined other leaders in condemning the Gaza conflict, calling for a ceasefire and prioritizing humanitarian aid. Key discussions also focused on Palestine and regional economic reform. Stay tuned for the latest updates.
نحن نتعرض للقضية هنا جميع محاولات التفكير
على ترابها الوطني
تتناول فيها عن الحرب.
The final communique of the Arab Summit in Baghdad has reaffirmed a categorical reduction of any forced displacement of the Palestinians and stressed the urgent need for humanitarian aid access to Gaza. The statement reaffirmed the centrality of the Palestinian cause and demanded an immediate halt to Israel's war in Gaza. It also voiced full support for a comprehensive plan to rebuild the Gaza Strip. The communique condemned ongoing Israeli attacks on Syrian territory and emphasized support for Lebanon's sovereignty and the protection of its borders against any violations. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has warned that the future of the two-state solution is fading before our eyes. Speaking on the sidelines of the Arab Summit in Baghdad, Guterres called for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza and stressed the urgent need to deliver humanitarian aid to civilians in the Strip. He urged a renewed commitment to implementing the two-state solution as the only viable path towards lasting peace. In his speech, the Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas has stated that the Palestinian cause is currently facing existential challenges. Abbas condemned the genocide, destruction, and starvation taking place in Gaza and called for a permanent ceasefire. He urged for an Arab plan to end the war and achieve peace and insisted that Hamas and all factions must surrender their weapons to the Palestinian Authority. He proposed holding an international conference in Cairo to fund Gaza's reconstruction and emphasized the need for a political process with a defined timeline for a two-state solution. He reaffirmed readiness for presidential elections and ongoing state institution reforms. Iraq has officially assumed the rotating presidency of the Arab Economic and Development Summit from Lebanon. Iraqi Prime Minister al-Sudani stated that the summit serves as a platform for consolidating Arab partnerships and advancing joint action. He announced the launch of the Arab Economic Reform Charter for the coming decade and proposed the creation of a Council of Arab Trade Ministers to strengthen regional economic integration. The 34th Arab League Summit has officially commenced in Baghdad, bringing together leaders from across the Arab world to confront urgent regional crises. With the war in Gaza dominating discussions, this marks Iraq's first time hosting the summit in over a decade, as Arab nations seek a unified response amid escalating conflict and humanitarian disaster.
The 34th Arab League Summit opened Saturday in Baghdad, marking Iraq's first time hosting the event since 2012. Leaders from 22 Arab countries gathered to discuss a host of regional crises, with the war in Gaza dominating the agenda. The summit convenes as Israel continues its military offensive on Gaza, now in its 8th month. More than 53,000 Palestinians, mostly women and children, have been killed since October. Israel's renewed attacks following the collapse of a January ceasefire have deepened the humanitarian catastrophe. Aid groups warn of imminent famine as Israel's blockade of food and medicine enters its 10th week. Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas was among the first to arrive in Baghdad, joined by Egyptian President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi and Qatar's Emir Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani. Most Gulf states were represented by ministers. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres and Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez also attended as guests. Egyptian President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi used his address to call for an immediate ceasefire and the full delivery of humanitarian aid to Gaza. He reiterated Cairo's firm opposition to any forced displacement of Palestinians and warned that the continuation of the war threatens to plunge the region into broader instability. Sisi also called for serious steps toward a two-state solution based on international legitimacy. Iraqi Prime Minister Mohammed Shia Sudani opened the summit by reaffirming Iraq's commitment to regional dialogue and partnerships. He pledged $20 million for Gaza's reconstruction and another $20 million for Lebanon, calling for unified Arab support for the Palestinian people. He denounced Israeli actions in Gaza and the West Bank, voiced support for UNRWA's operations, and urged immediate humanitarian access. The summit also addressed crises in Syria, Yemen, Sudan, and Libya. Baghdad's hosting of the summit signals Iraq's ambition to reclaim a central role in shaping regional diplomacy after years of conflict.
And for further analysis on the Baghdad summit, we're joined from Baghdad by the political analyst, Dr. Ammar El-Bahadli. Dr. Ammar, welcome to Qnews. Thank you so much for joining us. And delving right in, how significant is the reaffirmation of the centrality of the Palestinian cause in this communique? And what practical implications might it have for Arab states' engagement with international actors like the United States or the European Union?
At the outset, greetings to you and to the honorable audience. In fact, today the communique stressed the priority of the Arab project. Among the challenges facing the Arab national security is the Palestinian cause and the attempt to forcibly displace the Gaza population. Today, the aspiration of the Israeli occupation is completely rejected by the Arab world as it rejected the displacement utterly and provided solutions and prospects for the future phase, starting with the proposal by President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi to rebuild Gaza. This is the first proposal, and the second is presented by the Iraqi Prime Minister al-Sudani by establishing an Arab fund for the reconstruction of the areas of conflict, especially southern Lebanon and Gaza, which reflected the Arab realization of the national security challenges in this specific phase, and there is a response and there are solutions. These are realistic, applicable solutions seeking the reformation of the Palestinian state in accordance with the Arab terms, as it wants to establish a Palestinian independent state with the East Jerusalem as capital in accordance with the international legitimacy resolutions and the borders of 1967, which reflects the Arab joint vision and carrying the Arab responsibility collectively. The outcomes and the communique from the Baghdad summit stresses the unity of the Arab peoples to obtain the Palestinian rights and to grant them to the Palestinians suffering from the Israeli aggressions. But today, this final communique of the summit, and I add to this the international presence in this regional summit as the Secretary General of the United Nations, as well as the Spanish Prime Minister, who gave speeches regarding a drafted decision to be presented to the Security Council to achieve victory for the state of Palestine and the people of Gaza in particular. And I think, and I consider this one of the successes and strong points to be recorded in the communique of the 34th summit.
Yes, sir. Building on what you said regarding the two-state solution, which is the main goal here, UN Secretary General Guterres warned that the two-state solution is fading before our eyes. How realistic is a revival of this framework under the current regional and global conditions, and what role can the Arab League play in reshaping or revitalizing it? Sir, I was asking you about the two-state solution. How realistic is a revival of this framework?
Today, for the statement of the Secretary General of the United Nations, they push for sustainable peace in the Middle East region, and there are several considerations. First, the ongoing conflict between the Arabs and Israel does not lead the region towards sustainable peace. It keeps the Arab identity facing several challenges, including the Arab-Israeli conflict. I'd add to that there is an attempt by the Israeli occupation to find gaps in geographical location, especially in Syria. I think that the United Nations resolutions today, especially the ones highlighted by the Secretary General regarding the two-state solution and establishing an independent Palestinian state, I think that this speech and this statement will be provided with Emirati, Egyptian, Qatari mediation, let alone the rest of the endeavors by the United States to convince the negotiating parties in this particular phase in order to reach common convictions to achieve peace in this critical phase. I think we are still witnessing several challenges regarding the exchange of detainees and opening the border crossings and the logistical support, food and water, and the governance of Gaza in this particular phase, as well as the Palestinian Authority and Hamas agreeing on governing Rafah and Gaza in this phase. I think that if these things or considerations are addressed and tackled, and we were able to unify the stances between the Palestinian Authority and Hamas and the other factions, I think there will be a potential for peace by these mediation efforts and these endeavors by the United States, Qatar, and the United Arab Emirates and Egypt, which played an integral role in this regard, and I think these efforts will lead to stopping the conflict by sustainable solutions, not only temporary solutions. And I think the outcomes of this Arab summit are very promising. Everyone is aspiring for sustainable, lasting peace in the region.
Yes, sir. Sir, sorry for cutting in, but I want to ask you about Iraq's internal developments. With Iraq assuming the presidency of the Arab Economic and Development Summit and launching new initiatives like the Arab Economic Reform Charter, how's Baghdad positioning itself as a regional leader? And also, what challenges does it face in balancing internal stability with regional diplomatic ambitions?
In fact, today, with the convening of the summit, it's a success for Baghdad and for Iraq in general. It sent security and political and cultural and social messages. It expresses the current phase of stability within Iraq, and there is a social coherence to be observed, and there is cultural exchange with other states, which we wanted to highlight through this summit, as Iraq is handling the chairmanship of the Arab Summit, as it reflects the interests and concerns of the Arab peoples. Convening the summit, the 34th, comes upon the request of the Prime Minister's request submitted to the Secretary General of the Arab League, as he wants to reflect the positive picture of the Iraqi internal. There is a state of understanding and harmony between the different political and social institutions and entities within Iraq. I think the outcomes of this summit will be adopted to be applicable in reality by Iraq, as it is enjoying the chairmanship of this session of the Arab League for the next 4 years, and there will be a developmental role for Iraq to carry out. More than 18 initiatives have been launched. 10 of them were developmental and 8 are Palestinians regarding Palestine, Lebanon, Libya and Yemen. The developmental issues are regarding sustainable development, the blue economy and green energy, economic integration, free trade, and artificial intelligence and cybersecurity. These very pressing matters, and I would like to code them the main issues on the dialogue table presented by the Iraqi side, reflect the Iraqi awareness of the current challenges that face the region, as they will address challenge by challenge in cooperation with all the parties participating in this regional forum to provide solutions for all the challenges, whether the political or economic and social ones. As this forum has two aspects, the first political and the other is developmental. This was addressed in the political speeches and also in the final communique, and here I would like to make the distinction between the political statement and the final communique, as each state gave a political statement expressing its own point of view and interests and concerns, but the final communique reflected the main joint common points that all the participants to this forum agreed upon, as it touched upon the aspirations of the Arab peoples, especially regarding the national security matters, such as the water scarcity, the electricity linkage, the renewable energy, the challenges inside Syria.
Sorry for interrupting you due to the shortage of time. From Baghdad, that was political analyst Dr. Ammar El-Bahadli. Thank you so much for joining us here on Q News. We now go live to the closing press conference of the Secretary General of the Arab League and the Foreign Minister at the final session of the 34th Arab Summit.
My utmost gratitude to all the entities participating in the organization of this summit, as Baghdad appeared with this high level of organization. I would like also to indicate the role of the brotherly kingdom of Bahrain for their wise chairmanship of the previous summit, and also the role of the Lebanese Republic to host the previous development summit, and also for delivering the and handing over the chairmanship to Iraq. I would like to extend my utmost gratitude to both countries. Also, I would like to thank the people of Baghdad for their warm hospitality. They were the representative of Iraq to the Arab nations and also to the media platforms. All appreciation for their integral role to convey the picture of Iraq and highlighting its prosperity and stability, providing its stability. Ladies and gentlemen, the Arab Summit came up with different outcomes and resolutions after accurate examination and discussions by senior officials and foreign affairs ministers, as the meetings witnessed close the points of view regarding different political matters. On the political front, the Palestinian cause was at the forefront of the agenda as the central cause of the Arab nations, and the leaders stressed their unwavering support to the rights of the Palestinian people, rejecting all practices that violate the sanctity of their belongings and the opportunities for peace. The summit also focused on the significance of supporting political solutions that preserves the unity and sovereignty of the Arab territories and contribute to prevailing peace and stability, rejecting foreign interventions. In this framework, Iraq would like to praise and hail the role of Oman in the mediation efforts between the United States of America and the Islamic Republic of Iran. And I would like to reiterate the significance of this mediation to reduce the regional tensions and preventing any further escalation, serving the best interests of the peoples of the region and reinforcing the collective peace. Iraq has provided a proposal to form a committee with open membership to manage conflicts and settle disputes inside the Arab world through diplomatic flexible mechanisms to build confidence and reflect our keenness on preserving the sovereignty of the Arab nations, overcoming all disagreements. And regarding the Development, Economic and Social Summit, the outcomes focused on reinforcing the economic Arab integration and developing cooperation mechanisms in the fields of education, healthcare, innovation, artificial intelligence. As the summit reiterated the importance of reinforcing inter-trade and establishing joint economic projects to achieve the economic prosperity, create new job opportunities, and improve the quality of life for the Arab citizen. Iraq has stressed its complete commitment to support these directions and working with the brothers to activate and follow up the implementation of the summit resolutions through the relevant frameworks. Ladies and gentlemen, holding the two summits in Baghdad today is a clear message to the Arab and international societies, saying that Iraq has regained its recovery and started a new phase of integration with the Arab nations. It is a message stressing that the stability witnessed in Iraq today in different cities and institutions was not a coincidence but a result of a lot of sacrifices and hard work for years. The stability is the main pillar that paves the way to attracting new investments and strengthening the investment opportunities and opening horizons to develop relations with brotherly and friendly countries. We in Iraq believe that prosperity cannot be achieved except with cooperation, and the future of our nation lies in solidarity, integration of efforts. And in conclusion, I would like to stress that Iraq will be an open home for all the brotherly countries, embracing them with hospitality. Iraq is a country of pride and civilizations of long years, and it reiterates its commitment to strengthen the brotherly ties with all Arab countries, building real partnerships that serve the interests of our peoples. Thank you so much for attending. And now I have a brief regarding the announcement of Baghdad. If you allow me, I will read for you this brief. the anticipated Baghdad announcement. The declaration includes political, economic, and the initiatives launched by Iraq. Three aspects. First, the political aspect. It focuses on the Arab cause, the Palestinian cause, that we have demanded an immediate cessation of all hostilities against the Palestinian people and allowing an unhindered flow of humanitarian aid to the entire Palestinian territories without any conditions. Also focusing on different other Arab issues, especially in Syria, Libya, Somalia, and Sudan, stressing the importance of respecting the sovereignty and unity of their territories, focusing on regional issues, the escalating tensions on the international arena indicates the decline of diplomacy in exchange for rising power, which warns the risk of the lack of political paths. And we support the talks between Iran and the United States of America to reach positive outcomes to the use of nuclear power for peaceful uses. Also, we would like to appreciate the role played by Oman in these talks, as we welcome the diplomacy efforts exerted by Oman to reach understandings in Yemen through mediation with the United States of America, which ends the state of tension and facilitates the navigation in the Red Sea, which comes under the directives of the Iraqi government to support the peaceful solutions for regional conflicts, which is the principle on which the Iraqi state is based on to reinforce peace in the region, contributing to joint understanding and relying on dialogue as a mechanism to settle disputes. And we have stressed the importance of close cooperation with the United Nations and its agencies, and committing to the UN Charter principles as well as the international law to preserve the peace and security, supporting its efforts to address the international and global challenges, including achieving the International Sustainable Development Goals 2030, climate change, environment protection, human rights, food and water security, renewable energy, and peaceful use of nuclear power. Secondly, the economic aspect, focusing on the outcomes of the Development and Social Summit, which included around 28 resolutions that were considered and studied, and respective decisions were made through the agenda focusing on the joint Arab actions. Third, the initiatives launched by the Republic of Iraq. This is the last part of the declaration, including the initiatives launched by the Iraqi government, which will operate in cooperation with the Secretary of the Arab League and the Arab nations to reinforce the joint Arab actions. These initiatives include forming an open membership committee with the chairmanship of Iraq and the Kingdom of Bahrain and His Excellency Secretary General of the Arab League and all the states desiring to join the committee, to approach the views between the brothers to settle any disputes and prevail tranquility. The second project is the economic reform project aiming at building an Arab economic integrated economy that is dynamic and competitive. Third, launching the Arab initiative for social and development support based on Arab solidarity in the time of crises in the critical timing that most Arab countries are facing, such as Yemen, Syria, Sudan, Libya, and Lebanon, and reiterating the previous calls by the Iraqi government to establish the Arab Fund to support recovery and reconstruction. The Iraqi government announces the contribution of 40 million US dollars to the fund. 20 millions of them are allocated to the Gaza reconstruction and humanitarian relief, and $20 million for the reconstruction in Lebanon. In conclusion, launching the Arab Initiative for Food Security of Seeds to reinforce the food security in the Arab region by agricultural policies integrated and supported by scientific research, with practical and applicable measures so that the future generations can actually secure food and water sustainably. Thank you very much for listening, and now I would like to welcome His Excellency Secretary General of the Arab League. The floor is yours. Very briefly, His Excellency the Minister, I would like to express my deepest gratitude in the name of everyone who participated in both summits for the hospitality and the organization and the respectful Iraqi performance. You have talked about the return of Iraq to the Arab parameter and the Iraqi recovery, and I can testify that what we have observed in this incredible city, Baghdad, the capital of Iraq, reflects this recovery. However, the other side of recovery that raises attention is the vitality of the Iraqi diplomacy in its performance to prep for this conference and then during the proceedings of the conference. Some may not observe that Iraq was the first Arab state to have the chairmanship of both summits, the political and the development, to the next period, whether the next year on the political front or the next 4 years on the development front. So my utmost congratulations for these measures. The fund proposed by Iraq, whether the fund for Palestine and Lebanon or the fund for the Palestinian orphans, there was an idea of establishing a fund to handle the 40,000 orphans in the Gaza Strip, and it was ratified. It is another praisable step. Summit and the Secretary of the Arab League will address also reflect the identity that was evident during the past period in the Iraqi respectful performance. My heartfelt congratulations for the convening of both summits and our wishes for successful chairmanship for the 12-month on the political front and the 4 years for the development front. Thank you. If you'd allow us to receive some questions, only 6 questions, 3 from each side. If you can mention your name and your entity. Good evening, Your Excellencies. I am Siham Warsadi. My question is regarding the economic aspect. The Arab leaders stressed today the necessity of developing the Arab trade area and completing the requirements to establish the customs union. And today, the Arab leaders is in dire need for such initiatives, especially during the difficult economic situations after the implications of the Russian-Ukrainian war and the Israeli aggression against Gaza. What are the mechanisms and measures taken in this regard? The mechanisms is intensifying activities because we already have the mechanisms set and the frameworks adopted, but the Arab commitment to activate and make the trade area operating. A lot of states now are joining the agreement and ratifying its proceedings on the basis of the agreement. So I am optimistic, also optimistic through the economic unprecedented conditions the world is seeing. We have never seen all of these confrontations regarding the tariffs, the customs, and the economic confrontation taking place between the major powers of the world and also with the rest of the economies around the globe. You can see the global confusion. All of this imposes on the Arabs the need to unify the efforts. And I can give you an example of the Arab intentions to do so is the Arab performance today, meaning that Iraq is proposing ideas, the Arab countries are discussing, and then we can see them adopted as projects. The idea of the Council for Ministers of Trade is a very good idea, and our role here is to ensure that there is no double standards, and automatically the ministerial council will be launched. And you're aware that when ministerial councils are formed and operationalized, they're always very beneficial and useful to the peoples because they unify the thoughts between the ministers and all Arab governments and enable them to coordinate among each other, to exchange views and ideas and procedures that are applicable on the level of each society. So I am optimistic as a result of the outcomes of this summit, whether the economic or political summits. I think my brother is from Oman, right? Peace be upon you. We're talking about today about the media platforms. The media is leading the entire world. We can see the media platforms or traditional media is prevailing in the Arab world. Why isn't there an alliance, a real media alliance in the Arab world to preserve our culture and the social role of the meaningful media? My second question is that sometimes the Arab world tries to boycott some products. These economic and trade boycotts impact some states. Why don't we have an effective media platforms playing these roles? The media today, as stated in the social media, In my opinion, your question regarding the media, as if the media so far is directed, it is difficult to talk about directed media in our current day. The media is now accessible to everyone. So it's difficult to actually control the media because the media is free, in fact. Peace be upon you from Qnews channel. My first, it's only one question. We have only 3 questions for each side. Please, Mr. Secretary, for the Arab Joint Defense Initiative and these initiatives to bring back the Arab Joint Initiatives, are there any obstacles, and can we overcome the challenges and the conflict of interest between the Arab nations, and can we see once again a unified Arab army, or is it a far reach? For His Excellency the Foreign Minister, 18 initiatives were launched from Baghdad for the Arab support. And for the official stance of Baghdad, was Iraq able, after these challenges witnessed in the region and in the Arab world, to have a new political strategy? If you'd allow me, Your Excellency. The Maz here mentioned the Joint Arab Defense Treaty, also the Joint Arab Power, and when will we see it? The Arab Joint Power or Force was an idea launched in 2015, and there was a long dialogue, and it was discussed. And there were a lot of discussions, and these led to a certain moment that it might happen, but in proper time. And back then, the right time for the relevant stakeholders, they saw that it can be put on hold. So it's frozen for the moment, but if it's proposed by any state, they will go back to the discussion table. The development path is an international development the investment project. Of course, there are states showing interest for development projects because of their geography, but there are investments, foreign investors who have interest in the Arab development path. The idea was proposed during the summit, of course, and discussed for the storm. It's now away from Iraq and it's safe and stable. Your Excellency, you allowed me to ask one question, a joint question. How did Iraq read the message? There has been info. there was info regarding that Iraq cancelled the summit between Egypt or Jordan and Iraq. What are the reasons behind this cancellation, and how do you describe the participation level in the Baghdad summit? First off, we are very glad with the participation of all Arab states on different levels, which has natural impact. Before the summit and now in all Arab summits, never all the presidents participated. So today all states participated on different levels. For the trilateral summit, we were unable to convene it, but I would like to stress that the trilateral summit will be convened soon. Mr. Secretary General, from Sputnik Agency, President Putin, before the convening of the summit in Baghdad, he invited for an Arab-Russian summit. What is an Arab-Russian summit next autumn? How did you see this invite, and what is the significance of it? We would like to thank President Putin and as well as the Chinese president, as he sent two congratulations messages to support the Arab summit. As for the Arab-Russian summit, it was proposed to be held in October in Russia. So we will examine this matter, and there will be an announcement soon to approve the convening of the summit. Thank you so much, Your Excellency President and Your Excellency Secretary General. I have only one question. How do you see the relation between the Arab League and China? And as we are aware, the Chinese president sent a congratulation message to deepen the relation and cooperation between China and relations. You ask about the Arab League and China, correct? It's a very good relation, distinguished by different ties. There is an Arab-Chinese forum where all Arab states participate with China. It's convened either by China or one of the Arab states. The last forum was convened last year in Beijing, and a several number of Arab presidents and the Chinese president attended, and there is an Arab-Chinese summit held in Riyadh in 2019. In Riyadh, between the Chinese president and the Arab leaders, and there is an invite from China to convene a summit next year in Beijing between the Arab nations and China as well. It's a distinguished relations by a lot of cooperation. And tomorrow, for example, I'm meeting the member of the political office of China in Cairo, and before my arriving here, or a couple of days ago, I met with the head of the Chinese television union, and we have different relations in all fields. Thank you very much.
That was a live coverage of the closing press conference at the Baghdad summit between the Iraqi foreign minister and the Secretary General of the Arab League, where the foreign minister of Iraq has started by thanking Bahrain for handing over the chairmanship to Iraq, and he also said that there have been closed point of views regarding different political matters between the contributing countries. The Palestinian cause was at the forefront of these discussions. He also said that the summit focused on supporting political solutions that support the Arab region and rejects any foreign interferences. He highlighted the Iraq proposal to form a committee with open membership to handle disputes in the Arab nations. He said that the summit has also produced outcomes aimed at reinforcing the economic integration in the Arab region and also in fields like education and AI. But most importantly, he focused on the inter-trade joint economic relations. He said that Iraq is currently entering a new phase of integration with the Arab nations, and that stability is the main pillar, and it's also important to focus on attracting new investments, and that prosperity can't be achieved without cooperation between the brotherly countries. He also said that Iraq is an open home for all brotherly countries. Then he read a brief from Baghdad that focused on several aspects. The political aspect comes at the forefront, which focuses on, of course, supporting the Palestinian cause and the entry of humanitarian aid to Gaza. And he also reaffirmed Iraq's support towards the Arab issues taking place in Syria, Libya, Somalia, and Sudan, reaffirming the urgency to protect these countries' sovereignty and unity. He also said that Iraq supports the talks that are taking place between Iran and the United States to achieve peaceful uses of nuclear energy. He then moved on to the economic aspect. He said that 28 resolutions were presented and several initiatives were launched based upon them, which included forming open membership committee with Iraq, Bahrain, and the Secretary General of the Arab League. He also highlighted the formation of the Economic Arab Integrated Committee, which comes under the Arab Economic Reform Charter. Most importantly, he highlighted the announcement that Iraq backed the creation of an Arab fund to support the reconstruction efforts for Gaza and Lebanon. Iraq has relocated $40 million. $20 million goes to the reconstruction of Gaza, and the other $20 million goes to the reconstruction of Lebanon. Then the Secretary General of the Arab League spoke, and he praised the Iraqi performance and highlighted the return and the recovery of the Iraq. And Baghdad reflects this recovery and the vitality of Iraqi diplomacy at this time. And he also praised the Iraq's fund, which is the $40 million to the reconstruction for Lebanon and for Gaza. Lastly, he said that Iraq is the first Arab nation to assume both leaderships of the Arab Summit and the Economic Summit. And that brings us to the end of our special coverage on the Baghdad Summit. Don't forget to follow Qnews on YouTube, Facebook, X, Instagram, and TikTok at Qnews EG to stay informed. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more updates on Qnews.